Oh, why, hello there, my little friends. I didn't see you there. I was just enjoying a little cup of Joe on this beautiful Sunday morning. But here you are. I guess you're here because you want to hear a little bit about Congress. Look what I got for you right here. Yep. Didn't know you were going to show up. I just keep it on me at all times, always ready to teach. And I guess I'll go over the top 5 topics today so I don't get you guys whining and complaining. I will tell you this, I can't really log into PlanBook, so hopefully you subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is a phrase I never thought I would ever say, and nor do I want to repeat. And you can access it today. I will put a link up tomorrow as well. But got a test coming up. Monday is FRQ. Tuesday is the old multiple choice. So I'm going to go over just 5 topics. It's really not that big of a deal, this congressional unit. It's a lot of definitional questions. Now, when we start tying Congress into the president and the judicial branch, there'll probably be a little more application. But right now, a lot of definitional questions. So we got to look and see how the House gets there. We know how the Senate, you become a senator, you're elected by the states. It used to be state legislatures. 17th Amendment changes that. The House, we know that they're elected on by the people, but how do we get these 435 different elections? Well, we have 435 districts that our House members serve in, and every 10 years we count up everyone in a census, and then we reapportion. So we reallocate seats based on population. Like I said, if you're really into math, I've got that formula for you. I'm not, so I just trust, which is probably a bad idea. I should not trust the government, but I just trust what they're doing is right. And after they do that, some states lose seats, some states gain seats, and so they have to redistrict. Okay, redistrict. It's not a big deal. State legislatures are in charge of redistricting, redrawing the districts. And when you involve state legislatures, it turns from not that big of a deal to a huge deal because state legislatures are run by people that are in parties, specifically the Republican and Democratic Party, and they use their partisanship to redraw these districts. And so when you redraw district lines for a partisan advantage, you do this thing we call gerrymandering. And that's kind of where we're at right now is most districts are gerrymandered, which means they're drawn away to benefit a party so that party can never lose. District 6, the one that we live in, is never going to go Democratic because of how it's drawn. Okay, and there's some kind of, I guess, I can't think of the word right now because it's Sunday morning and I'm not going to do this again. So we're just going to have like 10 seconds of me stumbling there. But there's some requirements. There you go. Requirements that they've got to follow. One man, one vote started with Baker versus Carr. There's some other cases out there as well. But for my purpose and for the AP exam, just know Baker versus Carr starts this idea of one man, one vote. What's more important is maybe not necessarily Baker versus Carr, but one man, one vote is falling in line with the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. So the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment makes sure that my vote counts as much as your vote. It makes sure that all districts have the same approximate amount of population. You can't have a district with 5 people and another district with 1,000,000. That would not be under the Equal Protection Clause. So you got Baker versus Carr, one man, one vote. All districts have to have an approximate population. It's supposed to be compact and contiguous. Those are kind of some of the requirements for gerrymandering. So now that we know how the House gets in there, gerrymandering districts, that's one thing, but a lot of reasons why we've got the same old people staying in the House for 40, 50 years is because of advantages an incumbents have. And again, this is a definitional test, and so I may ask you for some advantages of an incumbent. You just need to tell me what they are and how they help an incumbent. So pork barrel politics, you need to know that definition. It's on the test. It's getting it's getting legislation passed that benefits your district with jobs, money, things of that nature. So pork barrel politics, incumbents can do that. The franking privilege, they can send mail for free. That's probably a definitional question that you're going to need to know. Constituency service, casework, going and helping my mom out with their social security check. No one else can really do that as well as congressmen. And so they get to keep their job. They stay in Congress for 40, 50 years, even though we hate Congress, because we love our congressman, because he does stuff for us. He gets us pork. He sends us letters that says congratulations or happy birthday. And also, he can do stuff such as Social Security or lots of other things from a pothole standpoint. Hey, there's a pothole in the road. We could ask our local congressman to fix that, and they can do that for us. Whereas John Doe over here, who is not in Congress, cannot get legislation passed because he's not in Congress. So those are some of the things that help out. Another thing is just simple and easy is name recognition and media coverage. We think because we see them on television that they're doing a good job. It's not necessarily the case, but we're more likely to vote for people because we know their name or because they're on the media than if we don't know who they are. So incumbency advantages, the reasons why congressmen stay forever, you need to know those. You definitely need to know the definition of pork and franking privilege, and you'll also need to know about name recognition, media coverage, and casework's a big deal. A lot of people get upset about casework because they think they spend so much time trying to get reelected, trying to do all these favors, that they don't spend any time passing legislation. So there you go. I mean, you can debate that if you want to. I'm not going to. But that's why they stay in office forever. Those advantages no one has. Differences in the House and the Senate. Guys, you're going to have to knock this out. This is something that is, again, you should just know. Let's go with first constitutionally. Know the two specific powers of the House: impeach the president and initiate revenue bills. Know the three specific powers of the Senate: hold the trial after impeachment, ratify treaties, approve appointments. You need to know that. You need to know differences in leaders. Speaker of the House is in the House of Representatives. He's elected by the House. The Senate has three leaders: constitutional leader is the vice president, then the president pro tempore is there when the vice president is not, and last but not least, the majority leader has most of the power. So you've got differences in leaders, you've got differences in constitutional stuff, but the big thing the AP exam really likes to ask you about is going to be the differences in procedure, like how they go about their day-to-day. I like to go about my day-to-day by drinking some coffee, so I'm going to take a little coffee break. It's delicious. So good. Pork's not here. Pork is at school. I'm not at school. Sorry, guys. Differences in the House and the Senate procedural wise. Rules committee versus no rules committee. The House has rules committee, so everything that they're debating, they're talking about, has rules set on it, whether it's open and closed debate, whether it's a time limit. All of that stuff happens in the House because they've got to be a little bit more formal, a little bit more structured. The Senate does not have rules in debate, which leads to a filibuster, leads to people in the Senate, they can talk for as long as they want to. That's what a filibuster is. That happens in the Senate because there's no rules committee. That happens because their procedures are different than the House. House is supposed to be very structured. The Senate's supposed to be a little bit less structured. The reasons for that, honestly, is numbers. More people in the House than there are in the Senate. Also, the framers wanted the senators to have more freedom. They didn't really respect the people that were in the House. That was just for the people. They thought it was going to be farmers and just regular folks, not career politicians. Whereas the Senate, they thought that was going to be the stabilizing force of the American government. So they wanted senators to have more of a say, and they do. Individual senators have way more of a say on a bill than people in the House, because most debates in the House are closed off to specific committees, whereas in the Senate, anyone can talk. So you could have a senator who could literally debate and say something about every single bill in America, and someone in the House that is shut out of 95% of those bills because they're not on a committee that's ever allowed to debate. So understand the procedural differences is huge, and it's the rules committee in the House, no rules committee in the Senate, and everything that comes with that, primarily filibustering. And then the one way you probably need to know to end a filibuster procedural wise, not just sitting down and being quiet, but just procedurally, is cloture, which is 60 votes. Speaking of committees, huge thing you need to know about are these committees. There's 4 types. I just need you to really know 2 well. Number 1, standing committee. That's where everything happens. They're permanent subject matter committees. Permanent subject matter committees. Things that America will always deal with. House and Senate have essentially the same standing committees. You do need to know the 2 different committees. So there's 2 standing committees that are only in the House. The Rules Committee, which we just talked about, and the House of Ways and Means, which goes back to that specific power the House has that the Senate doesn't have, which is about initiating revenue bills. So you do need to know 2 standing committees only in the House: Rules Committee, House of Ways and Means. And then from there, they're all pretty much the same. Agricultural, finance, those are things that are never going to go away. We're always going to deal with that in America. That's what a standing committee is. And when we start looking at the executive branch and the bureaucracy, you're going to see that the standing committees correspond with the cabinet. Okay, and that's where that legislative oversight, which you need to know about, comes in, where the Congression or legislature is making sure that their laws are being implemented correctly. Okay, and that happens a lot in standing committees. They write bills, they conduct legislative oversight. A lot of times a House standing committee will write a bill and the Senate standing committee will write a bill, and it's different. So then we have to call a conference committee. A conference committee is a place where you reconcile the differences between the House and the Senate bill to come up with one bill that can universally be voted on by the House and the Senate. So you definitely need to know standing, definitely need to know conference. Select or special is just a temporary committee, and a joint committee is just a committee that's got people in the House and the Senate on. A conference committee would be an example of a joint committee. How do you become in committees? Other thing you need to know about, other than their functional stuff, is maybe logistical stuff. Committees are run by the majority party. That's a huge advantage the majority party has. They get to control the committees. They get to pick all the committee chairs. That's typically done by seniority. The longest serving member in the majority party is the committee chair. That's where they write all the bills. So if you control the committee, you don't even have to worry about the vote. You know that every bill that's coming out of a committee is going to be Republican right now, because the Republicans control the House and the Senate, simply because they control the committees. And what do you do in committees? You write bills and you conduct legislative oversight. So every bill coming out of a committee, before it even gets to the House floor or the Senate floor, is going to have a Republican lean to it, because they control the committees. So there you go. Last but not least, Congress and the President, guys, you just need to know these things. You just need to know the constitutional checks. We're not going to talk about the War Powers Act on this. We'll talk more about that later. So don't worry about it if you don't understand it. But you do need to know the checks Congress has on the President. I've gone over that several times. The Senate approves treaties, ratifies treaties, approve appointments. The impeachment process starts in the House, ends in the Senate. That's a check. Override a veto, 2/3, that's a check. The power of the purse, that's a huge check. At the end of the day, Congress can always cut money because they're in charge of money. Okay? So that's a big check Congress has on the president. Other than that, guys, it's a real definitional test. All right, this one is. Now, when we start merging Congress and the executive branch and the judicial branch, there'll be more application. The FRQ will be an application thing. I would imagine it'll be about one of those top 5 topics. So make sure you guys know those and make sure you can articulate your thoughts in an FRQ. Okay, first test of the new year. Best of luck to you. I kept it right at 12 minutes. Enjoy, and hopefully you find this before I put it on Planbook.